entire concept of logic is anti-Black. But let's zoom out for some context. Western philosophy built its idea of reason by defining who wasn't rational. To be logical meant being European, male, and civilized. It's everything Blackness was imagined not to be. But that's why Afro-pessimists and decolonial thinkers argue that colonialism didn't just seize land, it seized the right to define truth itself. In epistemologies of the South, the seizure of the right to define truth itself is referred to as epistemicide. This is where Western rationality survives by silencing every other way of knowing. Sylvia Rivera's book goes on to expose this myth, the myth of linear progress, and how that erased indigenous cyclical time, therefore trapping the global South in someone else's timeline. And finally, on the post-colony, which reveals colonial reason as a logic that made Blackness the outer limit of the human. So when I say logic is anti-Black, I mean the very rules of logic were written from an imperialistic point of view. So to think freely, we need to rebuild reason itself from the ground up.
Tell me you haven't taken a logic class without telling me you haven't taken a class about logic. I swear, these pro-Blacks, they just find every single possible way to make us look stupid. And see, this is one of your intellectual stupid people. She went to college. Oh, she got her degree. She know all her big words. Oh, she know all her big words. She reads all these books, but still dumb as a doorknob. What do you mean logic is anti-Black? If A leads to B, then A leads to B. When it comes to logic and reasoning, it's just a way of understanding things. It's just a way of understanding how different components interact, how one thing leads to the next, how different variables interplay, and to say that reasoning and logic is somehow anti-Black, what it sounds like, okay, and this is what people are going to take from this, it sounds like you're saying Black people are illogical. Telling Black people to be logical is anti-Black. Like, it's almost like a weird way of trying to justify over-emotional crash outs, being irrational, being irate, being all of these different things that are stereotyped about Black people, and somehow intellectualizing ratchetness or intellectualizing being unhinged. We're not gonna do that, okay? What we're not gonna do is get out here and make it seem like being logical is against Black people. It has nothing to do with being Black. Thinking logically has nothing to do with being Black. There are plenty of Black people, Black folks out there who are logical, who know how to reason, who know how to make connections between different ideas and see how they interplay, and then also take in different variables and see how that affects the outcome or effect. Like, there are Black people who are logical and have reasoning skills. In other words, critical thinking. She also dropped another term on us. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I have never heard a day in my life the term Afro-pessimist. Now, let me go ahead and read to you what this means, because just like you, I know what the hell that was. So basically, an Afro-pessimist is a scholar or thinker who employs the framework of Afro-pessimism to analyze the pervasive and structural nature of anti-Blackness in society. This perspective challenges the notion that Black people can achieve full inclusion in a society built on anti-Black foundations, emphasizing the profound suffering and marginalization faced by Black individuals. Afro-pessimists argue that the foundational structures of anti-Blackness permeate all aspects of life, making traditional notions of progress and equality insufficient for addressing the Black experience. They encourage critical thinking and dialogue about systemic racism, providing a comprehensive understanding of the ongoing struggles faced by Black individuals. In other words, Afro-pessimists think that Black people can't compete. That's essentially all this is. This is just saying that Black people are unable to compete in the environment, basically calling us weak, saying that we're so stupid that we cannot navigate this system and succeed, even though there are other cultures others that are not white that also come here and succeed. I reject this notion 1000%. Now, while we can have conversations about injustices and people who misuse their power, all of that, we can have conversations about that. But let's not put out this idea that Black people are just so behind. We're just so traumatized. We're just so behind that we can't compete. Is that really the idea that we want to put out there? Be so for real. Not only that, she says something about being civilized, as if being civilized is the opposite of Blackness. Now, we know what these words mean, but I'm going to tell you the definition, okay? The dictionary definition. It says, at an advanced stage of social and cultural development, polite and well-mannered is the second part of that definition. So, are you saying that polite and well-mannered is the opposite of Blackness? That Black people can't be polite, that Black people can't be well-mannered, or that being polite and well-mannered is not within our nature? Is that really what we want to come out here on these here internets and say? That it is anti-Black to be polite and well-mannered? Y'all are really feeding into this idea that people should be fatigued with us. Like, even the pseudo-intellectuals within our community are feeding into the idea that everybody should just be fatigued with all of us because we're uncivilized, your words, not mine, illogical, that being reasonable and civilized goes against our nature. That we're not conducive for a civilized, reasonable society. Be so effing for real.
What? Logic is anti-Black? What is this, like some crypto racism thing? Logic is anti-Black? Blackness wasn't imagined to be civilized? Why would you even say that about yourself?
I'm so sick of these bourgeoisie Blacks that think because they read a few books that they are just the biggest brain in the room. They could come here, intellectualize some garbage nonsense. This is nonsensical. And more Black people should be upset about this. You are feeding into these narratives that we do not belong in a civilized society, that we're not polite, that we're not well-mannered, that we're not reasonable. Come on now. Think about this for longer than 2 seconds. So I find it funny that y'all will get out here every chance you get to argue in favor of Black people being stupid. That's what it sounds like. Oh, we need to rebuild reasoning. No, we need to start reasoning. We need to start being logical. There are some of us who are illogical, but there are too many of us walking around like this, very educated and dumb as hell, dumb as a box of rocks. She threw in there, oh, it's based on imperialism, that logic is based on imperialism. Now let me read to you the definition of what imperialism is. It's a policy of extending a country's power and influence through diplomacy and military force. Now you could use logic in your imperialistic quests, but it's not a one-to-one. It's not that logic is imperialism. No, you can use logic in imperialism just like you can use logic in literally any kind of school of thought. Let me read to you the definition of logic. Logic is literally just reasoning conducted or assessed according to strict principles of validity. Now, I guess maybe the argument she's making is, what do we describe as valid? Truth is valid. The things that we can prove. Y'all will call everything white supremacy. Y'all will call anything that makes sense, anything that is inherently good, y'all are gonna call that, oh, that's whiteness. But it's like, well, what are you comparing Blackness to? The opposite of it? Let's see. What's the opposite of logic? Unreasonableness, irrational, lacking coherence. This is what you're now trying to put out there through your pro-Black hotep statements. You're basically calling Black people irrational, unreasonable, and lacking coherence. Is that what we're really saying? Is that the message that we really want to put out there? Because it seems like to me, you're more so feeding into these white supremacist narratives that Black people need to be controlled, that we are better off enslaved because we're irrational, unreasonable, and lacking coherence. It's just like that dumb broad, and I will continue to bring this up because it was about one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in my life. It's like that dumb broad that was arguing with Charlie Kirk and had the nerve to say, oh, well, the Black people were afraid. That's why they weren't committing crimes.
So I'm sorry, are you trying to say that Blacks thrive under subjugation?
No, I'm not. I'm saying I'm asking you the question. The data shows they were actually better in the 1940s. It was bad. It was evil. But what happened? Something changed. They committed less crimes.
Maybe they
less
were afraid.
Like, broad, you literally just made an argument to make us slaves. Y'all don't realize the things that are coming out of your mouth because maybe you aren't logical. And that's why you're saying all of this nonsensical, loopity-got bullshit. I'm so sick of y'all getting on here and embarrassing the hell out of the rest of us. If you think that in order to be blackity black, you have to be irrational, illogical, that we need to discover a new way of reasoning, understand you're setting us backwards. Because look, everybody's gonna look at this and they're gonna laugh at you unless they're too stupid to realize you didn't really say anything with all of those big words you used. Y'all call everything that is inherently good white. So then what's the opposite of that? What does that leave for us as black folks, especially us in America? It leads to us being called the opposite. So you're cheering on, you're giving ammunition for them to look at us a certain way. In my opinion, that is one of the most anti-black things you could possibly do. But y'all, I am curious to hear you guys' thoughts down below. How do you feel about this idiot of a broad? Do you agree with her that logic and reasoning are anti-black? Or do you think like me, girl, shut the fuck up. Shut the hell up and stop embarrassing us. Our ancestors were very logical. The ones who got us out of slavery, they were very logical. Shout out to Harriet Tubman. She used logic and reasoning to free a lot of slaves. So come again. I am curious to hear you guys' thoughts down below. If you like the content, The more you interact with it, the more it gets pushed out into the algorithm. Also, hype the video. I have that function. Well, I may or may not have that function. They're very wishy-washy with it. If it's there, hype the video. Finally, if you're feeling a little extra generous, the link is in the description to buy your girl a coffee. Thank you guys so much, and I will see y'all with the next one. Deuces.